I like you guys, whether it's this group I get to talk to or whether it's the other groups that are meeting this week. What a privilege to week after week speak into your life. And this is, I think, my third year now, and we're someplace around 230 talks that have been recorded. And they're on the website, so you can listen to previous talks. There's scores of them there, and also another 40 or so audio podcasts that'll help you with your recovery in the Doing Family Right podcast as well. And so, yeah, it's just really fun to be here and to encourage you today. Yeah, this is a talk that will be bigger than ReGroup, will be bigger than recovery. It'll be part of all of your recoveries because it's part of my life, and I suppose my recovery from being a selfish, stupid person. But as I said last session, I want to talk to you about Donalyn and I over over 30 years ago, about 33 years ago now, wrote out a mission statement for our marriage. And I'm going to take some time to just basically do a line by line discussion of that particular mission statement that Donald and I wrote for our marriage over 30 years ago. And you've heard the expression, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time, i.e. nothing. And so, my challenge is that you would be very intentional about planning the type of relationship you want in your marriage. Right now, even as a single guy, if you were single, you could say, okay, well, what kind of marriage do I want to have? What are some of the important things that I want in my mission statement down the road? For those of you who are newlyweds, it's time for you to get with the program. For those of you who've been married for a while and never ever tried to write a mission statement, it would be really good to do. Donald and I, in different seasons beyond this core mission statement, we talk about, well, what is really important to us? What's going to be part of our series, our life in this next series of years? And, what do we want to keep aiming at? And we're looking at, remember, I don't like the word retirement. I like the word flexible. So in my flexible years, what does this look like for us? And I'll mention, some of the things that we've added or transitioned to. But this here is the actual mission statement that Donald and I created some years ago. And I'm going to read it through, and then I'm going to just basically break it down, explain it to you, why I chose what I chose. Now, this doesn't mean this is right. This is right for Donalyn and I. That's what's important, that you create a mission statement that reflects your heart, your values, your priorities. And to be very honest, when I created this was before I was helping couples write their own mission statements. We created this. So I would say that my mission statement, because I didn't change it to match how I train people how to do it now, it is kind of too long and too clunky, if I can say that. I would like it to be more pithy and more dynamic and more shorter, frankly. And so, later when I suggest that you can go online and get the instructions of how to do a marriage mission statement, you'll see that my particular one listed here over 30 years ago doesn't reflect the coaching I'm giving today. So forgive me, but I'm being authentic. This is what we wrote, and this is what Donald and I aimed at in our marriage. If you can appreciate, our oldest kid was grade 8, right down to kindergarten. We had 4 kids in that range. And so they were, in that early junior high and elementary school years. And to be very fair, we likely waited too long to create something like this. But you'll see there in the handout at the top, I have the whole thing written out, then I'm going to break it down line by line. So I'm going to read it first. This is Dave and Donalyn's marriage mission statement written in 1991. With a full surrender to Jesus Christ and the difference he makes both in a life and a home. Our marriage is going to be a lifelong adventure of committed and genuine friendship that does the following. Focuses on keeping our individual faith alive and growing. Number 2, rises above the routines of life and the pressures of tough times. 3, bonds with the crazy glue of laughter, openness, and passion. 4, displays persistent support and an exclusive faithfulness to the core. 5, models the realities of a healthy marriage up close and personal to our kids. 6, builds a home where people are strangely and supernaturally encouraged. And finally, reaches out in love and service to family, friends, and community. You can get the feel for what Donald and I wanted to see happen in our marriage and through our marriage, how we wanted our marriage to be recognized, how we wanted our marriage to be founded. A mission statement is kind of what you're going to found. You're going to build your marriage on this. And some of you that are going through recovery, I recognize that your spouse at this point may be working on rebuilding trust and won't want to work on a marriage mission statement. But there will be a time, and there's many of you on the call that I believe that time is now, that would be good for you to say, what do we want our marriage to look like? What would be our mission statement? What would be our target? What would be our passion? Because again, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. You'll have a nothing marriage because you didn't agree. You just kind of bumbled along and meandered here and there, and hopefully it works out good. So the foundation is the first 2 lines. I'm going to break that down just with my explanation of what it was meaning for us. So it starts out with a full surrender to Jesus Christ. Jesus is the Lord of our marriage. When we were still in high school, we started dating in high school. We used to write, obviously, notes to each other. Now it'd all be text, but we used to, leave a note here or there for each other or whatever. But we would sign it, love Dave, love Donalyn, and we would put a heart with a 3 in it. Right from high school, we wanted Jesus in it. I just wanted my life to always embrace Jesus. Not, okay, now Jesus, you go over here because I want to be with my girlfriend. Now I want Jesus to be with Donald and I all the time. And so we used to sign our name with love Dave Donalyn with a heart with the 3, meaning Jesus, Donalyn, and Dave. We were committed to each other to keep our walk with Jesus alive and growing. That's the full surrender to Jesus. And it's out of this same time in 1991 that I decided that I created that statement, put God first, life goes best, which I've talked about here in the recovery series. But it was because I had a desire to see, well, what's really important in my life? And it was, how am I going to share what's really important to my kids? And I came up with those 6 words. Put God first, life goes best. And of course, anchored by that verse in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. Put God first, acknowledge him as put him first. And so there was a commitment by Donald and I to have a full surrender to Jesus in our life and in our marriage. The second phrase is, the difference that Jesus makes in a life and a home. We have seen people that live without Jesus as Lord. We've seen homes that Jesus isn't Lord. And we've seen the difference that Jesus makes. And we wanted him to make the difference in us, in our home. So we're going to surrender to him. And we want the difference of Jesus to be reflected in our lives and in our home, in our marriage. So we saw that difference and we wanted to live that difference out. And we believe that Jesus can and does change lives, and he does change families. And I guess this is even more profound to me than Donalyn, but I don't come from a long line of Christians. My mom and dad were not Christians when they got married. Mom became a Christian at 28, dad maybe 35 or so. And by the time that I came along, the youngest of three, I mean, I still remember my dad still smoking and not going to church with us. But then he came to Jesus and really turned his life around. And I really grew up in a home where mom and dad really loved Jesus a lot. But but I've seen the difference that Jesus makes. I've seen the downline and how it changes things. And Donalyn and I have agreed to have Jesus Lord of our life, Lord of our marriage, Lord of our family life. And we actually have this on the wall in our kitchen. Our daughter-in-law made a beautiful piece of art with this verse on it. Choose this day whom you're going to serve. As for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord. Joshua said that to the people of Israel that day in Joshua 24:15. Choose this day whom you're going to serve. As for me and my house, we are going to serve the Lord. And that is that difference that he makes that we want. And so, yeah, I mean, here I am wearing a Doing Family Right shirt. You can see it there. You can't really be wearing that all the time if you have a screwed up marriage and your kids are, haywire. You got to be committed to doing things right as best you can. And so we really felt that it was a surrender to Jesus and let him make a difference in us, our marriage, and in our family. The third phrase in there is a fun one. Our marriage is a lifelong adventure. We're willing to try new things. Now, granted, I'm a little more risky than my wife. So when we're talking about crazy activities, that would be more me than my wife. But Donalyn and I are willing to step outside the box. At one point in the 80s, when the wall came down in Russia, when it opened up for missionaries, Donalyn and I put in an application to go with an organization to go serve in Russia. As it turned out, we didn't go. But I remember thinking, golly, I'm going to raise Russian hockey players because we're going to be missionaries in Russia. When we were doing the master's degree in Chicago, it was heartbreaking. We had two kids at the time. And you'd see the paper, you'd open the newspaper, the Chicago Tribune there, and it would have pictures of kids, rows of kids, and says, "Adopt me today." And we thought, what is that? But here, these are orphan kids from, inner city Chicago. And there wasn't a lot of heartache, as it were, to go through and a lot of cost. So we actually reached out and looked into the possibility of adopting a kid from inner city Chicago and decided that we had two kids of our own and we'll just, trust God for this. And when we approached them, they said, well, how long are you going to be still in the U.S. doing your schooling? And we told them, we say, I'm sorry, you have to live in the U.S. 6 months before you can adopt and take them out of the country. And we were only going to be there about 4.5 months. So, well, I had to go back and I was going to be teaching at a college. And so, but anyway, there was a willingness to step out of the box and try things. I mean, you can see in the notes there that Donald and I have been to 42 different countries of the world. We've served in 29, and there will be 4 different countries this year we'll have served in. Just in this year, in 24, being South Korea, Mexico, Turkey, and now we're going to be in Indiana, so we'll be in the U.S. Serving. And one of the latest things we've added to this lifelong adventure is family mission trips. We not only took our kids to different places to serve as a family, the 6 of us, or sometimes just some of the kids with me. But we now are doing 3 generational mission trips where it's my wife and I, my son or daughter and son-in-law, and their kids. And we've already done 2 of those, and got one planned already for Uganda next summer, so a year from now. And we're just going to try new things and be willing to be adventurous and step outside our box. And then the last thing that anchors just the foundation is a committed and genuine friendship. We've really worked to keep the love and friendship alive. Now, some of that's going to be broken down in the subpoints that are coming. but we really work to keep the love and friendship alive. We've seen a lot of couples that as they get married and stay married a longer time, they slowly grow apart. They just get farther and farther apart. And we decided we didn't want to see that happen. We wanted to see something consistent happening. And so when we know what it means to have almost lost our marriage in years 3 to 5, but for the grace of God, Donald and I could be divorced. I was a youth pastor and so committed to, this is a church in Calgary. I was so committed to helping the youth that I was really imbalanced, and we were starting to have our family. Jody and then Brock were just little during this time, and I was way out of balance. And here I thought, well, I can't be a selfish guy. Look, I'm a youth pastor. I'm helping people all the time. I'm not selfish. But basically, I made Donalyn had to fit into my schedule, into my world. It wasn't an us thing. It was, she kind of served the Dave Currie show. And we certainly had some work to do to change things. And she says in her testimony that if she had access to vehicles, we only had one, and money, she would have left. She would have left because she was so disconnected and felt disenfranchised. And so we lost that genuine friendship. And years 6 and 7, while we were doing our master's work in Chicago, God allowed us to rebuild that and have something pretty growing and pretty good ever since. We keep carving out time for each other. We keep dating, the happy camper dates that I coach all my clients to do. We do as well. We keep dating. I should have said earlier, but on Saturday, today's the 25th, so in 4 days, will be Donalyn and my 50th wedding anniversary. 50 years married this coming Saturday. And we are so blessed and so thrilled, and we love our marriage. It's not a perfect marriage because I'm still in it, but it's a great marriage. It's a great marriage. And we've worked hard to stay committed in a friendship and keep growing that friendship, carving out time and dating each other. So those are the foundational truths that set up the 7 statements that describe our specific goals. What's our target look like? What we wanted and what we'll do to get it. And so just going to run through these 7 things so that you can hear what at least our intent was. And I'm really glad we did it, by the way. I am really glad we wrote this mission statement, because we would reread it from time to time, and we would talk about it. Every time you talk about it to someone else, it reminds you what it's about. And so listen, number 1, our marriage focuses on keeping the individual faith alive and growing. Donald and I made a promise to each other. We realized that it's really hard for me to push her to grow spiritually. It's equally hard, maybe harder for her to push me to grow spiritually. So we made a commitment to keep soft hearts towards God, that I love you enough, Donalyn, that I will keep my faith alive and growing. You don't have to encourage me. You don't have to push me. You don't have to complain. You don't have to evaluate, because I will be working hard to keep praying, to keep growing in my faith, to keep reading, keep studying, going to church. I will keep my individual faith alive and growing. And she said, Dave, I commit to you. I will do the same. She doesn't push me, remind me, prod me, challenge me, or complain about me and my walk with Jesus. And I don't do the other to her. I simply say, I will push myself. I will remind myself. I will challenge myself to be a godly man and she to be a godly woman. That's number 1, that desire to continue to grow spiritually and be committed to love each other that way. Number 2, rises above the routines of life and the pressures of tough times. There's 2 key words there. One is routines and one is pressures. Well, the pressures are the dark days. There'll always be dark days where it's hard. And then there's always light days where it's just glorious. Just everything's just cooking. It's just awesome. But most of life is just shades of gray. It's just doing life. Got to get up, got to go to work, got to, feed the cattle, gotta, get in my car, do the commute, got, whatever your world is. There's a lot of life that is just the routine. So there's dark days that are hard, there's light days that are glorious, but most of the days are just kind of routine days. And the routine can suck the life out of a marriage if you're not careful. And so you got to be careful to fight the routines and keep the marriage alive and growing. And then it also talks about the pressures. One is routines, the other is pressures. There will be tough seasons in your marriage. There will be. There will be storms you're going to have to get through. We've had a variety of storms over the years. 2 different times, Donalyn had cancer scares where we thought that she had breast cancer and went through all the tests and all. And by the end of it all, what they originally saw disappeared, and we walk in grace. We've had 2 different kids in car accidents. We've had one child hit by a car. We've had a daughter go off the back of a motorcycle in a guy carelessly doing a wheelie and stuff. And we've had kids with surgeries that were needed because of blowing out their knees, 2 of them, and including myself. I blew out my knee playing football in Chicago, and massive reconstructive knee surgeries, and you just we've had cars stolen, we've had houses broken into. It's not that life is easy for the Curries. It's Jesus is in the middle of the mess. And you've got to keep in mind that your marriage has to rise above the routines, the day-to-day kind of mundane same thing, and rise above the pressures of the tough times. Thirdly, our marriage, our desire was that it would bond with the crazy glue. You understand crazy glue, something that sticks together. It bonds with the crazy glue of laughter, openness, and passion. Laughter, I just simply put it this way: work to make your spouse laugh. Put a smile on their face by teasing, laughing, goofing, not sarcasm where you're hurting them, but just a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. And then there's got to be a lot of kindness. Donalyn should be the person I'm the kindest to in this world, not the person I'm the most impatient with, the most frustrated by. That I'm kind to her, that she gets my best side, that she gets my best treatment. And so that it's easy to bond when you're treating each other well. And then the passion side is to keep the romance alive, to keep the intimacy, the sexual life alive. And that's a complicated one to talk about when you coming out of recovery and you've made your share of mistakes when it comes to sexual boundaries. But that is something that needs to be talked about. Some of you might be familiar with the names John Gottman or John Gray. Both of those are marriage experts. And they're not Christians, although Gottman has a Jewish background. But in their research, a lasting, satisfying marriage in both of their researches, and they're not believers, remember, they said there was 2 things that were consistent with those long-term marriages that the couples were really satisfying. You know what they found those 2 things were? One was they found a way to keep the intimacy growing and alive even into the latter years. And secondly, there's a faith foundation or value system that they share. Interesting, but that's what Gottman and Gray have said. And so, the crazy glue of laughter, openness. Openness, by the way, is no secrets. That she can trust me, that I can trust her, that her word is her bond. And that kind of honesty and openness. Number 4, displays persistent support and an exclusive faithfulness to the core. No flirting, no cheating, no porn, no private special friendships with outsiders. Matter of fact, for years now, it's got to be, again, maybe not 30, 35 years, maybe 25, 30 years, but I've written out the boundaries of how I'm going to operate to protect my marriage. And that I run with 50 boundaries. Some of you write boundaries, well, know this or know that. I got 50. Why? Because I'm so crazy, and out of control? No, but I'm so committed to stay faithful to Donalyn that I have boundaries that I've operated on. I try to read them once or twice a year just to remind myself. But basically, once you've got in a rhythm of living with integrity and not living with any kind of compromise, you don't have to have the boundaries because you don't lie. You walk in integrity. Your whereabouts are known all the time. My wife knows where I am all the time, and we're very open. But you see, this idea of a persistent support, that is me backing her, me encouraging her, me lifting her, me helping her when she struggles, me encouraging her where she's down. And this season in particular, with her mom, her dad passed away just last year, and her mom has slid full on into dementia and is not really able to interact with us at all anymore. Basically reduced to gibberish, is really sad. But many times after a visit with her mom, which is not a visit, it's just being with her mom now, my wife is struggling. She's hurting with the fact that mom's not there anymore, and able to just support her, talk to her, hear her out, pray with her, hold her, cry with her, just let her cry. But this idea of really, I'm a support to her and I'm faithful to her. Um, I have an article just about faithfulness and the advantages of staying faithful. And I had a T-shirt made, uh, and this goes way back before I even came here. So this would be in the mid '80s. I had a sweatshirt made with the stitching on it. A real man is faithful to his wife. And I wore that proudly, and had some interesting comments from people who didn't know the idea of faithfulness in marriage because they were maybe cheated on or whatever. Number five, another one of our defined targets was that we would model the reality of a healthy marriage up close and personal to our kids, that our kids would see a healthy, growing marriage. You see, your kids are a 24/7 witness to who you are and how you roll, how you operate. You can't fool your kids. They see through it. They can feel the tone. They can feel the edge between you. They can feel the walls. They can hear the arguments. They can see the frustrations between you. And so we wanted to show a marriage that was winning, that was healthy, that was satisfying, and to be an example to them, and actually to coach and guide them to be great life partners in the future. People who are, and this was our commitment, beyond their faith in Christ, which is our number one thing we wanted for our kids. We had two other things that we really desired for our kids: that our kids would be active and obedient. Active, willing to try anything, willing to get involved, not sit back, not sit on the sidelines, but be in the game. Active, obedient. No matter where you are in life, there's always somebody you report to, you're responsible to. And you have to learn to be obedient, just take orders and serve and just be committed to do your best. And so we wanted active kids and obedient kids, and kids who surrender their life to Jesus. You might call it simplistic, but that was what we were aiming at. Are we getting our kids to be active? Are they involved? And are we getting our kids to be obedient kids? And you can feel the intentionality about so many aspects of this target. And that's what I'm trying to get at. It's not a guess of where we're going. We've got a game plan. We've got our specific goals laid out. And so that's modeling a healthy marriage and what it looks like to be a great husband and wife to our kids so that they can be a great husband and wife. I mean, my daughter and I just finished this book, right, on basically new marriage or pre-marriage, preparation for marriage. And to be honest, no matter, I mean, I've done 750 couples in pre-marriage. And I'm telling you though, what the kid sees in your house growing up trumps what I would try to teach them in 6 sessions of a couple hours. Because that's what they think a good marriage is, because they saw. Now, in some cases, they don't want a marriage like they saw because they don't like what you guys had. Number 6, our marriage builds a home where people are strangely and supernaturally encouraged. This is a fun one. Matter of fact, I came really close to getting a plaque made. Matter of fact, I still may do that and make one for each of my kids. The front entrance of my house is right here. But over the entrance. So as you go to leave the house, you would see over that door, supernaturally encouraged. That we want, as people come and go in our house, that as they are just sitting in my house, being with Donald and I, just being in these four walls, as it were, that they would be encouraged, but not just encouraged by Dave and Donalyn are nice people, but that they would be supernaturally encouraged. That as they're driving away, they would be saying to one another, what a great evening that was. Wasn't it fun to be at the Curries? Man, I was so encouraged. That is our prayer. That as people come into the house, this is my house. This is my home. I set the tone. I can do what I want. I can play by my rules. I can do my practices. And so for years, as people come to visit us, at least 70% of the time, especially if people are visiting us for a while and maybe staying overnight, before they leave, we're at the door, giving them a hug, goodbye. I say things like, hey, listen, can I pray for you before we go? And they go, oh, sure. No one's ever said, oh, no, I don't want you to pray for me. So we gather. Matter of fact, we've been praying for people at our door for so long that when we would gather together these adults to pray, our kids were young enough, they would come. And I remember still the oldest two grabbing their arms around my knees. They were that little. They would run over and they would put their arm around my knees, and I'd pick them up and I'd hold this kid beside me, and we'd still have the kids in the circle, and they would be with us while we prayed for people as they left. Because our goal was that as people come into this house, that they are supernaturally encouraged. I didn't know that one of the Christmas traditions wasn't always have an empty place at your Christmas table and ask God who it is that you should put in there. Because I grew up in a home that every Christmas, it wasn't just our family, ever. There was always maybe a single parent with a couple of kids, or maybe a student whose family lives at the other end of the country and they're not going to go home for Christmas. And my mom or dad would hear about it and they, well, listen, come to our house for Christmas dinner. And so I just thought that was another, that doesn't every family do that? Because that's all I knew. So that's part of our tradition. At Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving, my kids know that when we have everybody over, if they have a friend or a needy person that needs to come, bring them. We got a gentleman. He's about 6'5" and 260. He's a black gentleman, a lawyer from I think it's Uganda, but he's now a teacher at Trinity Western, a wonderful godly man, and he's part of the family. Now he doesn't look like us, and he's certainly a monster beside us, but Henry we just love, and he's part of the family now because he has no other family in the whole nation. Now he has the Curries. But see, there's a desire you have to make a difference through your family, that people come into your home, that they are supernaturally encouraged. And the last thing that we wanted for our target, our specific goal, was that we would reach out in love and service to our own family, that I would love and serve my own kids and extended family, and that we would love and serve our friends, and that we would help out where we could in the community. Matter of fact, just 3 days ago, we had our 8th annual neighborhood barbecue. We had about 43 people here from the neighborhood, and we cooked half chickens, 34 half chickens I cooked for this spread. We've had as many as 85 at the event, and it's usually in the range of 45 to 55 that come from the neighborhood, and different years, different people, because the people are away and stuff. But you see, just desire to love and be a light, and just to love our neighbors and break down walls. But we've decided we're going to keep reaching out in love and service to the people in our world, that we would be a couple that serves. Now, you're hearing in that some pretty clear intention about what we wanted. I actually decided, after rereading this and working this through, that I'm going to let my kids listen to this talk, and I'm going to ask them to evaluate how we did, because it's 30 years of doing this now. My challenge that you would create a marriage mission statement, that you would have a target that you're aiming at. Because if you think of archery and you're going to pull and release and let the arrow go, You got to know where you're aiming. You got to know where the bullseye is. Now, you may not hit it. Like I may not have hit 7 out of 7, but I'll tell you what, I'm aiming and I know where I'm going. I can see the target and I know where I'm going. And friends, what a stinking difference it makes when you pull back that marital arrow and you know where you're going when you release. Why not create your marriage mission statement? In this handout, you'll see there's a link of how to develop your own marriage mission statement. It's right off our website. And frankly, I told you, what I just talked through, though it's authentic and is ours, it's way too big and too long. So you'll do a better one than I will. You'll do one that's more catchy and grabby. But the fun thing is, 2 of my 4 kids have actually got a mission statement. They're actually one up on us because we don't have this on the wall by the front entrance, but 2 of our kids have their mission statement for their family printed. Actually, it's engraved, or they're quite amazing. But there's no doubt what their family is about. And I'm so proud of them. And they may not hit it perfectly, but I'll tell you what, the direction they're going is spot on. And that's what I want for you. And as you come out of this season where you've gone through a hard time in your life and your marriage, why not take time to say, what do we need to do different? What do we want? And how are we going to get there? I challenge you to create your marriage mission statement. And here, as an old fart who's 50 years married in 4 days, I want you to know I do not regret creating a marriage mission statement because it kept us focused and kept us going in a direction that makes a difference. I hope that encourages you to do the same.